Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Charitable Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. And listen, we always like to bring to you information, some things that maybe we think we know, but we don't necessarily know. We're very glad to welcome to the program Liz Murrill. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for coming down. I know we got something we're going to talk about a little bit later with this panel discussion, but I kind of like people to get to know you a little bit. Tell us your story, what you do now, and what you're running for.
Well, we'll start. I'm running for Attorney General, but my job now is that I'm the Solicitor General. So I've been working in the Attorney General's office now for 8 years.
Okay.
What I do predominantly is federal work, but I also do state work, and I work on criminal and civil cases.
Okay.
I help the DAs with cases that are after they've prosecuted a case and they've gotten a conviction and it goes up on appeal after that. Then I'll help with those cases as they work their way through the state and the federal appellate system.
Okay.
Worked on over almost 300 cases with the DAs in state and federal courts.
Okay.
And then I do a lot of civil work. So I have a
Okay.
lot of lawsuits against the Biden administration on a number of different policies, energy policy, immigration policy, and what we're going to talk about in a little while, flood policy. But, you know, I grew up in Lafayette. I was born and raised in Lafayette, born in New Orleans, raised in Lafayette. I come from 9 generations of South Louisiana
Oh, my.
family. Yeah, my grandfathers and great-grandmothers and 2 lines. One goes back to Abbeville and one in St. Martinville. So been in that area for a long, long time, and went to LSU for undergraduate and for law school. I have a journalism degree. I have a
Oh, wow.
degree in
That's interesting.
newspaper journalism from LSU.
Okay.
Worked at a newspaper for a couple of years out in Florida before I came back here to go back to school and go to law school.
Okay.
Got my law degree at LSU, and big Tiger fan. Been here for a long time.
I know that's right. Well, it's an exciting weekend for us as
Yeah,
Tiger
it is.
fans.
It's really
But it's really interesting. You know that your family is a long line of descendants here in South Louisiana
Yeah.
when you're from the Villes. Right?
That's right. That's right.
And so Abbeville, St. Martinville, it's one of those things. My cousin wrote a song about marrying a girl from Napoleonville. And so it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that we know that that's South Louisiana. So that's just a really wonderful thing. And as an LSU fan and as an LSU grad, both undergrad and your law degree from LSU, that's exciting.
Well,
right?
and I have 4 sons. My husband and I have been married for 30 years. He's a lawyer too, and we have 4 sons. Our youngest is 19. He's at Louisiana Tech.
Okay.
Our second youngest son graduated about a year and a half ago from UL in Lafayette, where my mother was a history professor for 30 years, and my stepfather was a history professor for 40 years.
Wow.
And,
Long history of history.
Yes, but with the kids have
teaching.
gone everywhere. We got one LSU grad, one UL Lafayette grad, and one hope to be soon Louisiana Tech grad. And,
Wow.
if I had more children, I would send them to more
Send them
Louisiana
more
schools.
Louisiana schools, right? I love that. Well, we appreciate that. And so I love people to kind of get to know you a little bit. Tell me the difference between, and me, just because I don't know, the difference between Solicitor General and Attorney General. Just a little bit of a clarification, if you
So
don't mind.
great question. The Solicitor General is a new job that Jeff created when he was elected Attorney General. There's a Solicitor General in almost every state now, and there's one at the federal level. There has been one at the federal level for a very long time. That job, one of the primary roles in that job is to monitor and to protect our interests in the United States Supreme Court. So I've been able to
Okay.
argue now 5 times at the United States Supreme Court in my role as Solicitor General, but it's broader than that in the sense that we really kind of oversee all of the appellate work of the state, monitoring our state's interests. We can get involved. I can get involved in cases at the district court level all the way up to the United States Supreme Court in state or federal court if I think it's an issue that is really important to Louisiana. Then I can throw myself in that case and get involved, and we can sort of bring the voice of the Office of the Attorney General on behalf of the state into that case, so that we can make a difference for the people in our state. We get involved in a lot of things. We were involved in a case involving during COVID. We got involved in a number of the vaccine mandates. We got involved in the prosecution of a pastor. We're
Right.
under the executive orders that we thought were unconstitutional. We tried to sort of show where we thought the Constitution protected the right to worship, and that you couldn't treat churches differently than you would treat, say, Lowe's or Home
Right,
Depot.
right.
You can't give Home Depot and Lowe's more favorable treatment than worship in a church. And
Right.
so we try to get involved in those. We had one case involving a child who was was put into expulsion proceedings when a BB gun fell over in his room during Zoom school. And it just triggered all these laws that relate to mandatory expulsion for bringing a gun to school. And, that was an interesting case because it had the ACLU and the NRA and all of the legislature on the same page saying, this is his bedroom, this is our home.
Yeah.
There's got to be some recognition between the difference of a brick and mortar school and your bedroom when you're in Zoom school.
And actively trying to do that, like,
Yeah.
versus school coming to your home versus you going to that school.
Yeah,
I think
so
it's
it can be very personal.
Sure,
It's kind of the
sure.
point. Like we do all these things. It can be very heavily bound by procedure and legal rules that a lot of people don't understand. But at the end of the day, we're really looking for cases that matter to people at home here in Louisiana and to protect our constitutional rights and our interests at home.
I love it. And the other thing is that it's making sure that we are kind of stepping in when we see the need where it
Yes.
can impact further decisions, and
Right.
the outcome of that case is important for Louisianians.
Right.
Very
Yeah.
good. Great clarification, by
Yeah.
the way. And coming down here to talk about this National Flood Insurance Program, let's just talk about how it's important for the panel, but why it's so important for the people in South Louisiana to be more informed about what's going on.
This case is one of the biggest cases that we've filed in the last 8 years because it is so personal to people and it's very broad. We have 43 parishes have joined us in this lawsuit.
Wow.
9 other states have joined us in this lawsuit, and 12 levy districts, and Grand Isle, and Jean Lafitte. So it's a hugely important lawsuit. It doesn't just affect coastal areas because it really affects anybody who lives on water.
Right.
But we all know, because we're so waterbound here in South Louisiana and along the coast, that this is not that it's very much a part of our life every day. It's a part of our ability to pay the mortgage. It affects our ability to pay our light bill and our grocery bill. If you can't pay your mortgage, then you have to choose. We don't want people to have to choose between these things. And the federal government has rewritten this program in a way that is really, really dramatically increasing people's flood insurance rates to the point that they can't even afford their mortgage payments. It has other consequences, and we've outlined this in very lengthy briefs that we have filed in federal court to challenge the program and to try and stop the federal government from moving forward with this program and go back to the old rates while they fix what they broke.
Right. And that's the flood rate 2.0
Yes.
is what they're
Risk
proposed.
2.0 is what they call it.
Right. And it's one of those things that's been talked about quite a bit, but y'all are doing a panel discussion
We are.
about how y'all are addressing this. Let's talk about when and where and what people can look forward to that.
So it's the Coastal Conference here in Houma today.
Right.
That starts this afternoon about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Looks like it's going to have a great bunch of people there in attendance who really care about what's happening here in this parish and along the coast and how it's going to affect people's ability to live and work on the coast.
Right.
And so that's why I'm here, because I want to hear what everybody has to say, not just have people hear what we have to say about this lawsuit. I'm here for the whole afternoon so I can listen. But I think it's an important day for Houma and for Terrebonne Parish, just because we talk a lot about coastal issues and writ large and how it affects the broader coast, but this is about this community.
Right. And I love the fact that y'all want to get involved in this because, quite frankly, there's a lot of people that think that there was this ivory tower perspective about putting in this risk rating 2.0, and it just wasn't really well thought out about the impact and the fact that what is it based on? There's a lot of people that have been asking the question, what are you basing this on? And to my knowledge, a lot of those legislators, a lot of the people that are trying to vote on this haven't gotten an answer about what it was based on.
So that's been one of the most frustrating things about it, I think, is that a lot of really, really hardworking, good people, engineers, legislators, Congress, our entire congressional delegation, have been trying for a long time, at least a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, to get the information on the inputs, to figure out why the numbers are going up so dramatically, why they've come up with these new metrics and what assumptions they made to create such a dramatic change, and they won't tell us.
Right.
And I think that's really frustrating because the law, the statute that creates the National Flood Insurance Program says they have to tell us.
Right.
So it's, I think it's a shame that we had to go to this point and sue them to get information that they were legally obligated to give us anyway.
Right.
But more importantly, they have acknowledged the flaws in their system.
Okay.
They've acknowledged that they did not take into account a lot of local and state flood protection, risk management investments that we have made that do reduce our flood risk.
Right.
And we can demonstrably prove that they have reduced our flood risk.
Right.
And we can show that from areas that used to flood and now they don't flood. It's basic common sense.
Right.
But they have this ivory tower. You hit the nail on the head. These are people up in Washington, D.C. who are making decisions about climate risk and the future and long-term trajectory, and they've built in these catastrophic models that make assumptions that we think are just flawed, and they've left out very critical information that undermines their conclusions. And so that's, the net result of that is that some people's insurance is going up, their flood insurance is going up 6 times.
Yeah.
And it is heartbreaking when you hear people's personal stories about how expensive this is for them, and that they're going to lose their homes.
Yeah. And it's just not acceptable. And I love the fact that y'all walked in and say,
Yeah.
you know what? This is not acceptable. And this is what we're going to do about it. I also love the fact that the people down here are being able to say, wait a minute. To deny the fact that we had the worst hurricane to ever hit our area with 0 flooding
Right.
beyond our protected areas means that you're not paying attention.
Right.
It says that you're not listening. And I think the one thing that y'all are really asking for is transparency on a law that you are already supposed to have to give.
That's right. And when they've acknowledged that what they did was wrong,
Right.
and that they've built a broken system, they actually call this system, when the Biden administration came in, they changed the name, they renamed it Equity in Action, and what we call it is Inequity in Action, because it really hurts working families.
Wow.
And a working coast.
Yeah. Well, Liz, thank you so very much for coming down. Thank you for what you do. And again, here running for Attorney General in that next role for you. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming down to listen to the needs of the people here to fight for what's right for us down here.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. And we appreciate that. All right, guys. And that will do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. We got a whole lot more information coming to you right after this quick commercial break.